Hi everyone, my name is Alex, and I'm just a regular guy in his late 20s living in a small town called Riverton, about an hour outside the city. I work as a graphic designer from home, which means my days are pretty routine. I wake up around 7 a.m., make coffee, check emails, and dive into projects for clients. In the evenings, I hit the gym or grab a beer with friends at the local bar. It's nothing exciting, but it's comfortable. My house is an old two-story place I inherited from my grandparents. Creaky floors, big windows, and a backyard that backs onto the woods. I've lived here alone for 3 years since my last relationship ended. Lately, though, things have felt a bit off. It's hard to explain. Like, the air in the house seems thicker sometimes, especially at dusk when the sun dips behind the trees. I'd catch myself glancing over my shoulder for no reason, as if someone was watching me from the shadows. The neighborhood is quiet, but there's this strange silence that settles in. No birds chirping, no distant cars humming. Even my dog, Buddy, a lazy golden retriever, has been acting weird. He'd stare at empty corners of the room, his ears perked up, but when I'd look, there was nothing there. One morning last week, I noticed a small scratch on my arm while brushing my teeth. It was just a thin red line, maybe 2 inches long, right below my elbow. I don't remember how it got there. Maybe I bumped into something during my jog the day before. It didn't hurt much, just itched a little. I shrugged it off and bandaged it. But as the day went on, that itch turned into a faint burn, like something was crawling under my skin. I tried to ignore it, focusing on work, but every now and then, I'd feel this odd pull, like my thoughts were drifting to dark places. Memories of old nightmares I'd had as a kid, being chased through endless forests by something I couldn't see. That evening, I decided to shake it off with a walk in the woods behind my house. The path is familiar. I've hiked it 100 times. But halfway in, the wind picked up, rustling the leaves in a way that sounded almost like whispers. I stopped, heart beating a little faster, and that's when I saw it. A figure standing far off between the trees. It was too distant to make out details, but it didn't move, just stood there staring. I called out, "Hello!" No answer. The silence pressed in heavier. I turned back toward home, telling myself it was probably a hiker or my imagination playing tricks. But as I walked away, I swear I heard faint footsteps crunching leaves behind me, matching my pace. When I glanced back, the figure was gone. That small moment left me unsettled, wondering if I was truly alone out there. Little did I know, that scratch on my arm was just the beginning. The days after that walk got stranger. The scratch on my arm healed quickly, but the itching spread, like tiny pins prickling up my shoulder. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, scratching at it without thinking, and find my nails bloody. Work became harder to focus on. My design started incorporating weird symbols I didn't remember drawing, twisted shapes that looked like ancient runes. I laughed it off as stress, but deep down, I felt uneasy. Then the creepy signs started. First, it was the staring. I'd be at the grocery store, and I'd catch someone, a random shopper, locking eyes with me from across the aisle. Not just a glance, but a cold, unblinking stare that made my skin crawl. It happened at the gym too. A guy on the treadmill would turn his head slowly, watching me lift weights. When I'd stare back, they'd smile faintly and look away, but I could feel their gaze return moments later. Next came the messages. Anonymous texts at odd hours. "I see you," or "The itch means I'm closer." I'd block the numbers, but new ones popped up. Calls to, static on the line, then a low whisper saying my name, "Alex," drawn out like a sigh. I'd hang up, heart pounding, but the phone would ring again immediately. Footsteps became a nightly thing. Lying in bed, I'd hear them outside my window, slow, deliberate paces on the gravel driveway. I'd peek through the curtains, but see nothing. One night, I swore I heard scratching at the back door, like nails dragging across wood. I felt like I was being followed everywhere. Driving to the city for a client meeting, I'd spot the same black sedan in my rearview mirror, tailing me for miles. At a red light, the driver, a shadowy figure, would turn and stare, I told my best friend, Mike, about it over beers. "Dude, you're paranoid," he said, laughing. "Probably just coincidence. Lay off the horror movies." My sister, when I called her, suggested seeing a doctor for the arm. "It could be an infection messing with your head." No one believed me. They thought I was overreacting. But the unease built inside me, like a storm gathering. I started double-locking doors, closing blinds early. It all peaked one evening when I got home from work. There was a package on my porch, no label, no address. Inside was a small mirror cracked down the middle. Taped to it was a note. "Look closer. I'm already inside." My blood ran cold. How did they know where I lived? That night, as I barricaded myself in, I heard a faint knock at the door. Peeking through the peephole, I saw no one, but a fresh scratch mark gouged into the wood, still splintering. The danger felt so close, like whatever was out there had touched my home, marking it as its own. I didn't sleep that night, wondering if the possession had already begun. It was a Friday night, and I was alone in the house. The creepy signs had me on edge all week, so I decided to stay in, doors locked, lights on. Buddy was restless, whining at the back door, but I ignored him, trying to distract myself with TV. The scratch on my arm throbbed now, pulsing like a heartbeat under my skin. I bandaged it tighter, but the burn spread to my chest, making it hard to breathe. Outside, the wind howled through the woods, branches scraping the roof like fingers begging to get in. Around midnight, the power flickered. Once, twice, then cut out completely. The house plunged into darkness, silent except for my ragged breathing. My heart hammered in my ears as I fumbled for my phone's flashlight. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting into shapes that looked almost human. I told myself it was just a storm, but deep down, I knew better. That's when I heard it, the footsteps again, but this time inside. Slow, deliberate thuds coming from the hallway upstairs. I froze on the couch, sweat beading on my forehead. Buddy growled low, hackles raised, staring at the ceiling. The steps creaked down the stairs, one by one, agonizingly slow. Thump, pause, thump. My hands shook as I gripped a kitchen knife I'd grabbed earlier for protection. "Who's there?" I whispered, voice trembling. No answer, just the sound getting closer. A shadow stretched across the living room floor from the stairwell, long, distorted, like something not quite right. My breath came in short gasps, chest tight with fear. The air grew cold, heavy with a musty smell, like old earth and decay. The shadow paused at the bottom of the stairs, and I saw it. A figure silhouetted in the doorway. Tall, hunched, with arms hanging unnaturally long. It didn't move at first, just stood there, head tilted as if listening to my heartbeat. Then, slowly, it raised a hand, and I heard the scratch, nails dragging along the wall, gouging deep lines into the plaster. I backed away, knocking into the coffee table, the noise echoing like a gunshot. The figure stepped forward, into the faint moonlight from the window. Its face. Oh God! Its face was pale, eyes sunken and black, staring right at me with that same unblinking gaze I'd felt all week. A twisted smile spread across its lips, and it whispered my name, "Alex." The voice was raspy, like it came from inside my head too. My legs shook. I could barely stand. It moved closer, one shuffling step at a time, hand outstretched, fingers ending in sharp, jagged nails. Panic surged through me. I bolted for the back door, knife raised, heart exploding in my chest. The figure lunged, its breath hot on my neck, but I slammed the door open and ran into the yard. Rain pelted down as I sprinted toward the woods, glancing back. It was at the door, watching, but it didn't follow. Suddenly, it just vanished, melting into the shadows like smoke. I collapsed in the mud, gasping, knife still clutched tight. Had I escaped, or was it letting me go for now? The next morning, I called the police, shaking as I explained everything. The messages, the footsteps, the figure in my house. They came over, took statements, dusted for prints, but found nothing. No forced entry, no evidence of anyone being there. Could be a prank or your imagination. the officer said, eyeing me skeptically. I showed them the scratches on the walls and door, but they just nodded and suggested installing cameras. My boss, when I told him I needed time off, was understanding but distant. Get some rest, Alex. Sounds like burnout. My sister flew in from out of town, staying with me for a week, but even she started doubting after a few quiet days. Maybe it was all in your head, she said gently. I didn't argue. How could I explain the possession feeling, like something had latched onto me from that first scratch? I changed after that. I quit working from home and took a job at a downtown office, commuting to avoid being alone in that house. I sold it eventually, moving to a high-rise apartment in the city with security and bright lights. Now I'm always careful, checking locks 3 times, avoiding dark streets, glancing over my shoulder in crowds. The paranoia sticks. Every itch on my skin makes me flinch, wondering if it's starting again. Buddy stays close, but even he seems wary, sniffing the air sometimes like he senses something I can't. Things were okay for a while, but last night, it happened again. A small creepy detail that shattered my peace. I got an email from an unknown sender. No subject, just a photo attachment. It was me, sleeping in my new bed, taken from inside the room. No one could have gotten in. The door was locked, windows sealed. My heart raced as I deleted it, but the damage was done. Whatever it was, it hadn't left. It was still watching, waiting. Sometimes I lie awake, staring at the ceiling and wonder, what if that scratch was an invitation, and the possession isn't over? It's just biding its time? Or maybe this entity has done this before, scratching others, possessing them one by one, and I'm not the last?